Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
I don't want to change the world. I'm not looking for New England. I'm just looking for another girl.
I was a miner. I was a docker, I was a railwayman between the wars. The Union forever defends.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with
Billy Bragg.
Nice
Billy bloody Bragg.
here at Punk Rock Bowling.
That's right. Have you seen any bowling?
I did not go to bowling, but it is kind of cool to have bowling at a music festival, isn't it?
Isn't it? It's really cool. And even if, you know, they weren't paying me to do it, to be able to say to people in England, oh, yeah, you know, next week I'm playing in Las Vegas at Punk Rock Bowling, it's just the kudos of saying that. It's been so great. I've been dining out on that. Everyone thinks, oh, that's really mad. They should be here. It's even madder than you thought, folks. It's even madder.
It is. And I mean, listen, I do a lot of festivals. This is one of my favorites because they just like punks overtake downtown Las Vegas. There's club shows everywhere.
Yeah.
There's the festival. One of the best things about this festival, too, is when you play, everybody gets to see you.
That's right, yeah.
You know, it's you don't have that overlapping.
No, it's really
I hate
cool.
making choices.
Yeah, I know. I think it's really good. They keep everybody to their 45 minutes, apart from the headliners. You know, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then everybody gets a chance at the audience, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just so cool, the vibe here, and like, we're just one big family.
Cool would be good. Since the sun went behind the Golden Nugget Hotel, it's got a bit cooler, but I wouldn't say cool is a word I'd use. I'd say fried. But
right?
I'm from a very temperate country in the Atlantic.
Yeah, and I mean, I tell you what, I mean, your country has bipolar weather. Like, I'm going there to go do download in a couple weeks, and I'm like, oh my God. What's the weather?
Yeah,
what do I pack? I got to bring like 5 suitcases.
And it's been awful. You know, we're just, you know, where are we now? At the end of May, we haven't really had spring. We've just had wet. And I was just texting with my wife now saying it's so hot here. You can't believe how hot it is. And she said, well, we've had 3 days of sunshine here and now it's raining again. So I'd take your wellies, mate, if I was you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So tell us, you know, like, what's your best story? What's your craziest, coolest, worst, best, whatever it is?
About what?
Your whole journey in this musical world. In this musical world.
The craziest thing. Well, a couple of years ago, I was on stage while England were playing Germany in the finals of the Women's European Soccer Championship. And it went to extra time. So I was literally on stage while the game was on, and 5,000 people in this tent were looking at their phones. And my biggest worry was it was going to go to a penalty shootout. That would be a nightmare to be on stage because everybody would be looking at their phones. And then they would go, oh, and I wouldn't know if we've missed or they've scored. I'd be like the only person in the tent. But fortunately, we won the game, but the game ended in the middle of one of my songs, Greetings to the New Brunette. I'm there singing my song, and all of a sudden everyone threw their beer in the air. And I thought, oh, well, obviously, you know, time has come. So then I kind of said a few appropriate words and got off stage. But I'll be honest with you, it was such a difficult gig to judge because I like to feel, when I come to a festival, I like to try and suss out the mood of the audience and try and pitch my set to fit that. It's a bit of a busk, but I managed to do it normally. But the idea of being on stage in front of an audience whose mood could change catastrophically and you have no control over it is my kind of nightmare.
Yeah, so right.
I will admit to laying awake the night before, fretting. I don't normally fret at all about gigs. Gigs are the least of my worries. It's my happy place. You know, I look forward to it. But yeah, that gig was a bit of a nightmare. But it turned out great. And afterwards, I'd agreed to do a signing, which was great because having come off stage and not sure if I'd done a great gig or it'd been terrible, everybody in the tent was like, Bill, you know, it was so great to be with 5,000 people when at that moment, it was such a great moment, you know. And I thought, you know, that's right, because if I'd have been the headliner I'd have been at my hotel room,
Right.
watching it on the telly on my own. I'd have jumped off the bed, texted my wife, and that would have been it. But as it was, there I was with 5,000 excitable English people having a fabulous experience, because we don't often win them championships. We won the World Cup in 1966.
That's when I was born.
There you go, you see, and we've won nothing since. So,
It's my fault.
And the fact, no, don't take it on you, it's our fault. But the fact it was the women as well, it had such a change in our attitude towards sport and stuff. It was so great, the women's team, and it was just a lovely, lovely moment. And it was just, it's unforgettable, whether you're in the audience or stuck on stage trying to grab hold of the attention of the crowd.
And you perform all over the world. You're here in the U.S. now. You're from the UK. How would you compare performing there opposed to performing here? And how has it changed as you've been an artist? Because I know for me as a listener,
Yeah.
like I remember being a teenager and it's like my goal was to get to the UK because that was the only true punk scene.
Yeah. That's true. There's some truth in that, I think. But you'd be surprised how similar it is. I've been thinking a lot about this a lot lately, that the things that we were involved in the 70s and the 80s, how similar things are now. If you think about it, I was involved closely in anti-apartheid stuff, and that involved a boycott of an apartheid regime. It's the same what young people are doing now with the state of Israel. Their opposition to what's happening in Gaza, to the people in Palestine. They're starting a boycott. I was also involved in ACT UP, supporting gays and lesbians, both in this country and in the UK, where there was a ban on talking about sexuality in school. And now it's the trans community who are in that front line. So I find myself, as I'm old now, I'm 66, talking to young people and saying, yeah, we've done this before and it works. We managed to make a contribution to bringing down the apartheid regime in South Africa. We managed to support in solidarity with our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters to the point now where we have equal marriage. So, keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
And don't stop. And I think that the real thing that's changed is that music is no longer has a vanguard role in youth culture because of the internet.
Right.
When I was 19, there was only one medium available to me with which to talk to the world. I had to learn to play guitar, write songs, and do gigs. That was my social media. It was all that social media, yeah.
Right.
But now, of course, if you're angry about the world, you can make a film on your bloody phone, so doesn't have that central role, but it does still have a role to play in bringing people together, firing people up. There's something in music that you can't get online. And as long as that remains the same, I think people will be coming to festivals like this, or getting together in England or wherever, to have that kind of sort of social, emotional solidarity that you get from loud music.
Based on what you just said, do you think that the new punk bands of today, the reason maybe they don't have the same angst as the 70s, 80s punk bands is because of what you just said, that there's another outlet for that anger and frustration?
Yeah, there is. But things happen that make you angry and you want to do something more than just be on Twitter about it. Trump would be one example, I mean, he's much worse than anything we had to deal with. He's worse than Thatcher, he's worse than Reagan, And I think climate change is a bigger threat than the Soviet Union ever was, because there's, with the Soviet Union, you could go up against them and, have mutually assured destruction and ultimately bring them to a camp. But climate change could be much more destructive. We're already seeing it. And so I think there's a lot more things to get fired up about. And I'm always pleased when I see young bands. I run a stage at Glastonbury Festival where we have young musicians come in there, this left field, who have got something to say about the world. Not in the same way as I did, but why would they? I'm their grandparents' generation now,
right.
I suppose. So, but they're still trying to make sense of the world in the same way that we were.
It's funny how you said Trump compared to Reagan and Thatcher, because my best bro of life, who since 13, he passed away in September, but he said, even though I hated Reagan and hated his policies, I at least believed he thought he was doing what was right for the country.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what makes Trump scarier, because I don't think that.
No, he's not interested in anything except himself. Reagan at least paid lip service to the notion of America as a democracy,
Right.
as a country with a constitution that was good, you know, and you know, similarly with Thatcher, you know, she was accountable. And the trouble with Trump, and to some extent with Boris Johnson as well, is they refused to be accountable in their personal life, in their professional life, in their political life, and you know, acting with impunity. That's fascism. You know, you can't escape from that.
Oh,
you know, that's
100%.
totalitarianism. So they're dangerous people, and you're going to have a right fight on your hands this year with the election, I think.
Oh, I don't even know what to think, except I might be getting a place in the UK.
Well, we've got an election coming up in a few weeks now, and hopefully, well, it looks like Labour are going to get in, but whether they're going to be able to turn things around, it's a big question. Big question.
You know, and it is interesting what you said, because the fact of the matter is one thing I can say, at least Reagan tried to unite the country, whereas Trump tries to divide it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the oldest trick in the book. I don't know why we're so stupid. The whole world has become stupid that way.
It is,
It's
polarization. I think, unfortunately, because of the digital nature of discourse as well, it's so much easier to just be oppositional and be angry rather. There's not much room for nuance on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true.
God, we sound like old geezers, don't we?
I know, right?
We'll start telling you how great the Clash are in a minute. And you haven't lived until you've seen the Clash. God save us from that.
Oh, man, that's great. I love it. But, man, I love that you're still here rocking it.
We're still here, man.
It.
We're all still here. We're hanging in there.
And do you have anything else you want to share with the listeners that we haven't covered yet?
Well, just really that, you know, music is about bringing people together.
Yes.
It's about empathy.
Yeah.
Any kind of music, punk music, whatever music, you know, it's all about making people feel that they're not alone. And in a world where so much does to divide us, to come to a gig and sing your favourite song with a person who wrote it and 1,000 other people singing it too, you make you feel like you're not on your own. You're not. You can't get that shit online. So, you know, as long as people need that, there'll be space for festivals like this and music to bring people together. And so, you know, I'm proof of that. I've been coming to America for 40 years. How fortunate I am that people still give a shit about what I have to say and what records I make. So, you know, I think you just have to tell people to keep on keeping on, and eventually they'll find a way.
I think it's because you're real and because you're a musician.
Well, you're very kind. I'm barely a musician. I'm a rhythm guitar player in a punk band without a punk band. But yeah, thank you for saying that.
Well, you know, after 40 years, you might have learned the instrument. You might not have known it
We'll
the
find
first
out
day.
in about an hour. We'll see how far I've got.
Looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thanks a lot for being here at Punk Rock Boy, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
My pleasure. Great to be here. Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Hi, this is Billy Bragg, and you're listening to Pipeman on Wacky. Oh, not Wackies, it's W4CY.com. Wacky.com sounds so much better, man.